Thanks, Danielle. Welcome to the Veterinary Medicine Loan Repayment Program webinar for interested applicants. My name is Marlene Azevedo. I am the VMLRP Program Coordinator at NIFA. Thank you again for joining us today. We expect the presentation to be 45 minutes long. We will reserve about 15 minutes at the end of the presentation to answer any questions. We ask that you submit all questions in the question and answer chat box at the bottom of your screen. Please enter your questions as they come to you throughout this presentation. We'll answer all questions at the end of the webinar. This webinar will be recorded and posted to the VMLRP webpage within 2 weeks. We will now begin with a few introductions from our VMLRP staff, and we will begin with our national program leaders.
Good afternoon. My name is Bob Smith. I serve as the National Program Leader for this program, along with Dr. Kathy Bjork. We also oversee the Veterinary Services Grant Program. I'm a graduate of the University of Illinois College of Veterinary Medicine 41 years ago and spent numerous years practicing mixed and large animal medicine before joining NIFA 18 years ago. I also hold a PhD in animal nutrition and am a current member of the American College of Veterinary Nutrition. Kathy?
Hi. Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for your interest in the VMLRP. I'm Kathy Bjork, and I'm also a national program leader in animal health for NIFA. I joined NIFA in late 2020, and the VMLRP is one of the programs in my portfolio. Just like Bob, I am a NPL for the VSGP as well. Before joining NIFA, I was a veterinary epidemiologist for 12 years in USDA APHIS Veterinary Services. Before that, I worked in state and local public health in Colorado for many years, and prior to that, I worked in private practice for many years. So I'm going to turn it over now to our policy and program analysts and specialists who will introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Joseph Perez. I'm a lead policy analyst here at NIFA within the Office of Grants and Financial Management. I have been a member of the VMLRP team for over 10 years. I'm responsible for the review of loan documents and administration of loan payments and associated verifications. Most of your communications with NIFA over the 3-year award period will be with me or Marlene. Ms. Farley?
Hi, everyone. Thank you again for joining us today. My name is Danielle Farley, and I work with VMLRP and the Veterinarian Services Grant Program here at NIFA. I joined also, like Kathy, in late 2020, and I'm coming from a master's degree in communication studies where I focused on risk and crisis communication regarding animal disease biosecurity. So thank you again for joining us. We look forward to working with you and answering your questions and receiving your applications.
This webinar is designed to give you an in-depth explanation of the VMLRP application process. We will cover the following items: an overview of the National Institute of Food and Agriculture and the VMLRP, the application cycle, the application process, the review process, and what happens after awards are announced. On October 1st, 2009, the Secretary of Agriculture established within USDA a new agency called the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, or NIFA, as mandated by the Food Conservation and Energy Act of 2008, also known as the 2008 Farm Bill. NIFA addresses many challenges facing the nation through administration of grants and other forms of financial assistance in support of science-based research, education, and extension programs. NIFA mainly works with basic and applied scientists at universities and colleges throughout the United States and around the world to find innovative solutions to issues related to agriculture, food, the environment, and communities. With a timely integrated approach in collaboration with other federal science agencies, NIFA has also serves as a vital contributor to federal science policy decision-making. As part of its agricultural workforce, education, and extension mission responsibilities, NIFA was delegated to administer the VMLRP program and enter into the educational loan repayment agreement with veterinarians such as yourselves.
The VMLRP, authorized by the National Veterinary Medical Services Act, helps qualified veterinarians offset a significant portion of the debt incurred in pursuit of their veterinary medicine degrees in return for their service in certain high-priority veterinary shortage situations. NIFA will carry out NVMSA by entering into educational loan repayment agreements with veterinarians who agree to provide veterinary services in shortage situations for a determined period of time. If you commit to at least 3 years of veterinary services in a designated veterinary shortage area, NIFA may repay up to $25,000 of your student loan debt per year, or a max of $75,000 for a 3-year award. Loan repayment benefits are limited to payments of the principal and interest on government and commercial loans you received for attendance at an accredited college of veterinary medicine, resulting in a degree of doctorate of veterinary medicine or the equivalent. Since the inception of the VMLRP in fiscal year 2010, since the inception of the VMLRP in fiscal year 2010, we received over 1,700 applications and awarded over 600 veterinarians across the country. It is important to note that loan repayments under the VMLRP are, legally speaking, not grants. This is why VMLRP applicants are not submitted through the common federal portal called grants.gov. There are several aspects about this program that you would not normally find in a grant, such as a review of your personal financial documents and the process to designate veterinary shortage situations for the VMLRP. In sum, the VMLRP is a program designed to alleviate high-need areas for food animal veterinary medicine across the United States and insular areas. As such, qualifying individuals apply to VMLRP fulfill the needs of specific veterinary shortage situations. Before moving forward, we will briefly describe what a veterinary shortage situation is and how it is established.
Process of veterinary shortage situation designations occur over the last several months following a well-defined, non-competitive, merit-based process aimed at fairly distributing opportunity to participate in the VMLRP. All states, the federal government, DC, US, insular areas were allocated a maximum number of allowed shortage nominations they could submit to NIFA for external panel review and potential designation. Nominations received at NIFA by this year's deadline were reviewed by an external panel of veterinary experts. Care was taken to ensure broad and diverse representation on the panels and to avoid conflicts of interest. The panels either recommend to approve designation or disapprove designation of each submitted nomination. 196 nominations were submitted by SAHOs, the state animal health officials from across the country and insular areas, and the panel recommended all of them to be designated as shortage situations. We will provide more detail regarding how to navigate our shortage situation map to find detailed information relevant to your application.
Now we will review some of the benefits of the VMLRP. If your DVM loan debt level is less than $75,000, then the VMLRP will repay this amount towards your loans. If your DVM loan debt level is higher than $75,000, then the VMLRP will repay $75,000 towards your loans. Loan repayments will be made directly to the loan servicing agency on a quarterly basis, starting with the end of the first quarter after the program eligibility date of the service agreement. This is usually around the beginning of April. Note that the 39% tax payments will be made in addition to the loan repayment. If the VMLRP is scheduled to repay $75,000 on your behalf, your VMLRP award will be for $104,250, $75,000 in loan repayment, and $29,250 in tax payments. Both the loan and the tax payments made on your behalf by the VMLRP are considered taxable income to you by the IRS and will increase the federal taxes and possibly state and local taxes that you owe. A 1099-G form is mailed to participants no later than January 31st of the following calendar year. VMLRP participants are always responsible for ensuring that their federal, state, local, and any other taxes are paid properly and on time, regardless of the tax-related benefits that may be provided by the VMLRP. Additionally, details on VMLRP payments will be covered during the webinar for award recipients. This webinar occurs in November, approximately 6 weeks after successful applicants are notified of their award.
Because there is no program like the VMLRP and USDA, we went through several new processes that were tailor-made for this program for the first time in 2010. While it remains the program's goal to have an online application system in place, we will continue with paper applications for this application cycle. Comments and feedback are always welcome, and they will be helpful as we continue to make adjustments to our administrative process. Application forms are available on the VMLRP website and will remain available during the application period. All applications and recommendations must be received by 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday, April 16th. A request for applications, or an RFA, is a formal statement that invites applications in a well-defined area to accomplish specific program objectives. The RFA includes important information such as instructions on how to complete and submit an application, the amount of funds set aside for competition, the estimated number of awards to be made, and the deadline for submitting an application. The VMLRP RFA for 2021 is available on the VMLRP website. You can directly access the RFA by clicking on the link you see on this slide. The RFA provides a detailed description of each step in the application. As such, we highly recommend that you review the RFA before you start the application process. An applicant's failure to meet an eligibility criterion or comply with a requirement outlined in the RFA may result in the application be excluded from consideration, or even though an application may be reviewed, will preclude NIFA from making an award. There are slight differences in the requirements between a new and a renewal application, so please be sure to review the RFA to ensure that you respond to the appropriate questions and submit the correct forms for your application. You are considered a renewal applicant if you previously received a VMLRP award with a contract start date of January 1st, 2018 or January 1st, 2019. Renewal applicants that wish to serve in a shortage situation area different than what they are currently serving are required to submit as a new applicant. You are considered a new applicant if you have never received a VMLRP award and completed the contract, even if you have submitted an application to the VMLRP in the past.
This slide provides an overview of the application process. Applicants are encouraged to contact recommenders and collect loan documents as early as possible. We will be going over each application form later in this webinar, and there is an application guide on our website that provides a step-by-step overview for the process of preparing and submitting an application for the VMLRP. After NIFA receives all applications by the deadline, a 3-part evaluation process, which we will also cover later in this webinar, takes place before the announcement of awards. NIFA anticipates that all awards will be announced by September 30th of 2021. To be eligible to accept a VMLRP award, an applicant must first have a DVM degree or the equivalent from a College of Veterinary Medicine accredited by the American Veterinary Medical Association Council on Education. Second, have qualifying educational loan debt as defined in 7 CFR 3431, Section 3 of the VMLRP regulations. Third, secure an offer of employment or establish and/or maintain a practice in a veterinary shortage situation as determined by the Secretary within 90 days after award notification. And fourth, provide certifications and verifications in accordance with 7 CFR 3431, Section 16. A link to the VMLRP regulations is available in the About the VMLRP section under General Information on the VMLRP website. We encourage you to review the eligibility section in the regulations and contact us if you have questions about your eligibility before you submit your application.
The following individuals are not eligible to apply to the VMLRP. 1, an individual who owes an obligation for veterinary service to the federal government, a state government, or any other entity under agreement with such federal, state, or other entity are ineligible for the VMLRP unless such obligation will be completely satisfied prior to the beginning of service under the VMLRP. Second, an individual who has a federal judgment lien against his or her property arising from federal debt. And third, an individual who has total qualified debt that does not meet the debt threshold of $15,000.
Loan repayments provided under the VMLRP may consist of payments on behalf of participating individuals of the principal and interest on qualifying educational loans received by the individual for attendance at an accredited college of veterinary medicine, resulting in a degree of Doctor of Veterinary Medicine or the equivalent, which loans were made for one or more of the following: 1, tuition expenses; 2, all other reasonable educational expenses; and 3, reasonable living expenses as defined in 7 CFR 3431, Section 3. An accredited college of veterinary medicine is defined for VMLRP purposes as a college of veterinary medicine that is accredited by the AVMA, Council on Education. Please note that the VMLRP will only repay debt incurred at an institution that is accredited at the time of attendance and graduation. If an institution received full accreditation status during your attendance at this institution, only the portion of veterinary school loans that were dispersed subsequent to the institution's date of accreditation will be repaid by the VMLRP. This includes any scenario involving an individual transferring from a non-accredited institution to an accredited institution. Individuals with a degree from an institution that was not accredited at the time of the degree was conferred remain ineligible for award. This is regardless of the fact that the individual may have attended an accredited institution prior to transferring to a non-accredited institution from which they received their degree. The following loans are not eligible for a payment under the VMLRP. 1, loans not obtained from a bank, credit union, savings and loan association, not-for-profit organization, insurance company, school, and other financial or credit institutions, which is subject to examination and supervision in its capacity as lending institution by an agency of the United States or of the state in which the lender has its principal place of business. For example, a loan from an employer is ineligible. 2, loans for which supporting documentation is not available. 3, loans that have been consolidated with loans of other individuals, such as a spouse or child. 4, loans or portions of loans obtained for educational or living expenses which exceed the standard of reasonableness as determined by the participant's standard school budget for the year in which the loan was made, and or not determined by the secretary to be reasonable based on additional documentation provided by the individual. 5, loans, financial debts, or service obligations incurred under another loan repayment or scholarship program or similar programs which provide loans, scholarship, loan repayments, or other awards in exchange for a future service obligation. For example, you received the Army's Health Professional Scholarship the last 2 years of veterinary school. Any data incurred during the 2 years of that scholarship or are not eligible. However, the first 2 years would be eligible. 6, non-educational loans, including home equity loans. And 7, any loan in default, delinquent, or not in current payment status.
New applicants are responsible for completing and submitting 6 application forms in addition to submitting a resume and unofficial transcript. When you submit your application, you will attach 2 PDFs in your email submission. The first PDF should include the applicant information form, including a resume and unofficial transcript, a personal statement, and list of recommenders. The second PDF you will submit will include the loan information, certifications for application, and intent of employment forms. We will review each of these elements in detail moving forward. Lastly, you will send the recommendation form to the 3 recommenders that you identified. They will fill out this form and send it to us directly at vmlrp.applications@usda.gov. Applications and recommendations must be received by 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday, April 16th. Applications and recommendations received after this deadline will not be considered for funding. An individual may submit only 1 application per cycle. Please be sure to retain a copy of the entire application for your own personal records. Similarly, renewal applicants are responsible for completing and submitting 6 application forms, in addition to submitting a resume and unofficial transcript. When you submit your application, you will attach 2 PDFs in your email submission. The first PDF should include the applicant information form, including a resume and unofficial transcript, a personal statement, and list of recommenders. The second PDF you will submit will include the loan information, certifications for application, and intent of employment forms. We will review each of these elements again in detail moving forward. And lastly, you will send the recommendation form to the 3 recommenders that you identified. They will fill out this form and send it to us directly at vmlrp.applications@usda.gov. Renewal applications also must be received by 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday, April 16th. And again, applications and recommendations received after this deadline will not be considered for funding. And an individual may submit only 1 application per cycle for renewals. Please be sure to retain a copy of the entire application for your personal records. There is an application checklist available for both new and renewal applicants on the VMLRP website. This checklist should be used as a tool to assist you with the submission of your application. You will not submit the checklist with your application. It is simply a tool to help you organize and navigate the requirements of this application. NIFA reserves the right to contact you for additional documentation beyond those listed on the checklist. Please type your answers on each form. Handwritten answers on your application forms will not be accepted. All forms are provided to you in a PDF fillable format that can be accessed by any Adobe Reader. In addition to the application forms, you must submit a resume. Limit the body of the resume to 2 pages with an additional page to list publications, patents, and other interesting things you might include in your resume, if applicable. Please review the RFA for more guidance related to formatting requirements for the resume. You must also submit an unofficial transcript from your professional veterinary degree program. Do not send us a transcript for your undergraduate studies or any other program not related to your veterinary degree. Applicants with a PhD or master's degree should also attach a synopsis of their dissertation or thesis abstract.
This form collects your relevant identifying, contact, employment, and education information. You also authorize the disclosure of information that confirms you do not have another concurrent or conflicting service obligation or a federal judgment lien against your property. Correspondence regarding submitted applications will be sent via email. Therefore, you are strongly encouraged to double check your email address on this form for accuracy before submitting this form. If any of this information changes after you submit your application, it is your responsibility to inform us of this change. You also need to identify the designated veterinary shortage situation you intend to fill. The unique 5-character shortage ID code can be found in the top right-hand corner of the shortage nomination form. This form can be found on the designated veterinary shortage situation maps on the VMLRP website to help identify your choice. The shortage ID code entered on this must match the code entered on the intent of employment form, the NIFA 07-10. A renewal applicant should enter the shortage ID code of the shortage situation he/she is currently serving through a VMLRP award. If a renewal applicant is uncertain as to what this code is, he/she should contact the VMLRP program office to obtain this information.
The personal statement is limited to 5 double-spaced pages with 1-inch margins and 12-point font. You are not required to write your personal statement on this form. Instead, you will create your own document that will be submitted with your application as a PDF. Please review the RFA for specific guidance regarding the required formatting. The personal statement includes a discussion of your knowledge, skills, abilities, and experience relative to the shortage situation you are applying for. This document must include a description of your short-term and long-term career objectives in veterinary medicine, a plan to achieve these objectives, relevant knowledge, skills, ability, and experience, practice plans, and logistics to address the specific shortage situation to which you are applying, including an example of a challenge or problem that you successfully addressed is a good idea. Be as clear and compelling as possible. This is your opportunity to tell your story and express your unique ability to fill a specific need for the shortage situation you are applying to serve. Be thorough and accurate in describing how well your qualifications and career aspirations match the intent and objectives of the program. You should explain why and how you will be able to effectively fill the specific shortage situation you are applying for. Financial needs of the applicant are not relevant, except to the extent that applications must have eligible educational debt. Do not use the limited space in your personal statement to describe your personal financial situation. Focus instead on local, state, and national veterinary service needs you plan to meet and how you envision being able to achieve personal and professional success through participation in VMLRP. For renewal applications, the personal statement provides applicants an opportunity to present a progress report starting with the start date of the applicant's current or most recent VMLRP award. Information provided should include how the applicant has been effectively addressing the specific shortage situation in which the applicant is serving. An explanation should be included to offer justification of the applicant's ability to further enhance services and mitigate this specific shortage situation. For type 1 and type 2 applications, we are also asking that you include a map showing where your practice is in relation to the shortage situation. This does not need to be anything fancy and is considered an additional page to the 5 pages of your personal statement. This helps reviewers unfamiliar with the area understand what you describe regarding logistics in your personal statement. Lastly, we encourage you to review your personal statement for grammar and spelling errors before submitting. Spelling and grammar errors are criteria that the review panel consider when reviewing and ranking your application. On this form, you will identify 3 colleagues who can speak to your capability to fulfill program obligations. The name, email address, and phone number must be provided for the individuals you plan to ask to submit a recommendation on your behalf. This is simply a list with your recommender's name and contact information. You will submit this form with your application. Recommenders may be veterinarians, producers, or others you work with in the food animal industry. You should select your recommenders based on the nature of the case you plan to make in your personal statement. Please be sure to contact your recommenders as early as possible to give them ample time to complete the recommendation form, also known as NIFA-08-10, on your behalf. The recommendation form is to be completed and submitted by colleagues you identified on NIFA form -03-10. This form includes ratings and short answers designed to allow reviewers to assess your capabilities to satisfy the veterinary services component of this agreement. Three separate recommendations are required, and all recommendations must be received by NIFA no later than 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday, April 16th. Again, handwritten responses on any part of this form will not be accepted, and your application will not be considered for further consideration. Please be sure to let your recommenders know which shortage situation you are applying for. Recommenders can view the descriptive information provided by the nominator of the shortage situation you are applying to fill by visiting the VMLRP website, or you could provide them the link to the nomination form. This is not required, but may provide your recommenders with valuable information for creating a strong recommendation. You may also want to provide your recommenders with your personal statement. Again, this is not required, but may provide your recommenders with valuable information for writing a strong recommendation on your behalf. Recommenders will send the completed recommendation form directly to us using fax or email. The fax number and email are shown on our website, also on this form and in the RFA. It is always the applicant's responsibility to contact and follow up with recommenders to ensure all required recommendations are completed and submitted in accordance with the applicable instructions. Recommenders will be receiving an email verification of receipt of the recommendation form from NIFA once we have it.
This form requests information on qualified loans you want considered for the VMLRP. If you have more than one qualified loan, complete this form for each group of loans with the same loan servicer. You must complete sections 1 through 3 before submitting this form with your application. Do not complete section 4. A promissory note, regular, master, or consolidated, and an account statement, summary, and detailed are required to document every educational loan included in your VMLRP application. StudentAid.gov summary and detailed reports are also necessary to provide us with an overall view of your federal student loan portfolio. These documents should have the following identifying information: Social Security number, name, and address. There is a loan document tutorial on the VMLRP website. If you do not have the necessary loan documentation in your possession, you are strongly urged to start contacting your lenders immediately. Some lenders take several weeks to process your request for promissory notes, especially for older loans. It is important that you ask lenders to send documents directly to you so that you can retain a copy of your records before sending them to us. This approach allows you to quickly resend the documents to us in case they do not reach its intended destination at NIFA. Renewal applicants do not need to submit these forms. However, we reserve the right to request updated information on certain loans.
This form is composed of 3 sections, each of which requires your signature. A signature may be electronic if using Adobe or ink. By signing Section 1, you validate the contractual agreement for loan repayment and authorize the release of information about your loans by the lending institution, servicing agent, and/or the institutional program named in the application. Your signature in Section 2 certifies the accuracy of information provided in the application. The signature also confirms your understanding of consequences that may be imposed on you in the event of false, fictitious, or fraudulent information being provided in the application. Your signature in Section 3 certifies your request for confidential recommendations to be included in the application, to be used to determine your merit as a prospective participant in the program.
In Section 1, you must identify the designated veterinary shortage situation you intend to fill upon receipt of a VMLRP award by entering the 5-digit shortage identification code. Use the designated veterinary shortage situations map on the VMLRP website to identify your choice. The code is provided near the upper right corner of the nomination form for the specific shortage situation you choose to fill. The code entered on this form must match the code that is entered in the applicant information form, NIFA-01-10. Additionally, you need to provide contact information for the prospective employer or hiring official on this form. Section 2 must be completed by the hiring official. The hiring official's signature certifies your ability to secure an offer of employment or establish and/or maintain a practice in a veterinary shortage situation. If you will be self-employed, list yourself. It is important to understand that the VMLRP is a loan repayment and incentive program designed to relieve a significant debt burden so that you are able to pursue, develop, and sustain rewarding professional opportunities within the parameters defined by the Veterinary Service Commitment on your own initiative. It is your responsibility to find or develop an employment situation within and effectively serve a shortage area that will enable fulfillment of obligations as specified in your agreement. The VMLRP is not responsible for creating any employment opportunities. You may apply for only one shortage situation. This form is not part of the application package for renewal applicants unless your employment will change.
A sample contract is available for review on the VMLRP website. You will not submit a contract with your application. However, we recommend that you review the contract before applying to understand the terms and conditions if you are selected for an award. The VMLRP contract is a legal agreement that binds the selected applicant and the Secretary of USDA and/or NIFA director to the terms and conditions for participation in the VMLRP, including obligations of both parties. The contract must be signed by the applicant and the secretary before the agreement can become effective. You will receive an official copy of the contract to sign and return if you are selected for an award.
Individuals who consolidate their veterinary school loans with other educational loans like your undergraduate, will be allowed to apply for the VMLRP. However, only the eligible portion of the consolidation veterinary school loans will be repaid by the VMLRP. Furthermore, applicants with consolidated loans must provide a complete history of their student loans from the studentaid.gov, a central database for student aid operated by the U.S. Department of Education. The website can be found on this slide. Individuals who consolidate their DVM loans with non-educational loans or loans belonging to an individual other than the applicant, such as a spouse or child, are ineligible for VMLRP consideration. A web page dedicated to consolidation loans is available in the applicants section on our website, including an example of how the amount of your award will be calculated if your DVM loans were consolidated with other educational loans. As mentioned earlier, it is important that you ask lenders to send documents directly to you so that you can retain a copy for your records before sending them to us. This approach allows you to quickly resend the documents to us in case they do not reach their intended destination at NIFA. Again, please be sure to contact your recommenders as early as possible to give them ample time to complete the recommendation form on your behalf. We cannot emphasize this enough.
Within the applicants section of the VMLRP website, you will see a link for the map of designated locations for 2021 under the Choosing Your Veterinary Shortage Situation header. This link takes you to a page with the 2021 map and a table below. As indicated on the slide, all states or blocks shaded blue have designated shortage areas for 2021. States or blocks in white do not have a designated veterinary shortage situation. This does not necessarily mean that there does not exist a shortage situation within the state, but that either one, no shortage situation nominations were submitted by the state, or two, the external review panel did not recommend any of the submitted nominations for official designation. Please note that the map appears very small when using Internet Explorer, but is easily viewed by other browsers like Chrome. You can access the shortage situations for a state in one of two ways, either by clicking on the blue shaded area of the map or by using the filter located below the map, entering the state to filter by and selecting apply. No matter which technique you use, the map will not change, but the table below will list the shortage areas that match your search criteria. This table can also be sorted by clicking on an underlined red heading. Federal shortage start with FD in the shortage code and are included in an area within the state in which it is located. As you can see in the image on the right, there is a federal position in Hawaii. Currently, we do not have a way to filter by only federal positions. However, since the table already sorts in alphabetical order by state, by scrolling to page 4 and 5, you will find the start and end of federal shortages. There is a federal position in Hawaii, Kentucky, Missouri, and Texas. In Arizona and California, there is a shortage nomination indicated by the same shortage ID of JS211 as a joint shortage. This is a joint shortage between the two states of Arizona and California. Please review the shortage nomination to ensure the requirements are met for both states to be described throughout your application. California and Arizona both list the same shortage nomination of JS211. Additional summary details about any shortage situation in any state can be found by clicking on the shortage ID. Note, however, that for complete information about a shortage, you should read the entire shortage nomination as submitted by the chief or federal state animal health official and approved by NIFA. To view the complete shortage description, open the PDF in the column on the right labeled nomination form. When you click on the PDF file, you will see a copy of the nomination form that was submitted to NIFA by the state animal health official. Use this form to gain a better understanding of the specified shortage situation. If you click on the downloaded PDF from the file, it will not open automatically, but rather download the form to your computer. You may contact the nominator of a specific shortage situation to collect additional information as you develop your case and competitiveness in your application. The name and contact information of the nominator are available on the last page of the nomination form. Congressional intent is for this program to incentivize applicants to serve in veterinary service shortage areas with the greatest need. However, the peer review panel will take into account the quality of match between your professional training, experience, and the circumstances and needs of the designated shortage situation you propose to fill. It is essential that applicants and awardees address real shortages within the designated area according to the intent of the nominator, a nomination. You may also want to provide the nomination form for the shortage situation area you are applying for to the people who will submit a recommendation for you. It's not required, but it may give them valuable information to write you a strong recommendation.
Each applicant may submit only one application for one shortage situation. Each shortage situation is limited to only one award. Be sure to review the shortage nomination form carefully before you make a selection. Select your best match, make your best case, and be strategic. This is a competitive program. There is no way to know how many applicants will be applying to fill the shortage situation you select until after the deadline. There are 2 requirements for an applicant to receive an award offer from the VMLRP. First, an application has to be ranked above the overall funding cutoff line by the external peer review panel, which is mainly based on the availability of congressionally appropriated funds. Second, unless indicated otherwise in the nomination form, each shortage situation is limited to only one award. Thus, an application also has to be ranked the highest among all applications identifying the same designated veterinary shortage situation in order to receive an award offer. In other words, it is possible for an application to be ranked above the funding cutoff by the review panel but not be offered an award. Applicants should also be aware that Congress has stipulated that the VMLRP must emphasize private food animal practice shortage situations. Accordingly, NIFA anticipates that loan repayment awards for the public practice sector, or Type 3 awards, will be limited to approximately 10% of available funds. Again, financial needs of the applicant are not relevant except to the extent that applicants must have eligible educational debt. There is approximately $7.6 million available for VMLRP awards for 2021. For context, we made 76 award offers in 2020. Applicants who do not receive an award this year may reapply in the next cycle. We anticipate a significant pool of available designated shortage situations for the foreseeable future.
This is a national program intended to bolster protection of food, agriculture, and public health national infrastructures. There is no obligation to place a certain number of veterinarians in each state or region. As such, each applicant is competing nationally against all other applicants for available awards. Each application will be categorized by the external review panel as either outstanding, very good, good, fair, or poor. Applications will be ranked within these categories. Once panel ranking recommendations are finalized, awards will be made by NIFA, beginning at the top of the outstanding category until available funds are expended. Each application will be evaluated in a 3-part process. First, each application will be screened to ensure that it meets the administrative requirements. Second, applications that meet the administrative requirements will be evaluated for content by an external peer review panel composed of veterinary subject matter experts. Concurrent with the peer review, a separate review of your loan documentation takes place to ensure the eligibility of your loans and to calculate your award amount should your application be chosen for funding. Whether your application is funded or not will be based on the evaluation of your application by the external peer review panel. Assuming you have eligible debt above the minimum of $15,000, your loan documentation will not have an impact on the evaluation of your application. Peer panelists do not see the loan portion of your application. They are tasked only with assessing how well they believe you will be able to mitigate the shortage situation to which you apply. We anticipate that VMLRP applicants will be informed of final funding decisions by September 30th, 2021.
Upon receipt of the VMLRP applications, our program staff reviews each application to ensure administrative requirements are met. Although an applicant may meet eligibility criteria, there may exist factors which exclude an applicant from receiving federal financial and non-financial assistance and benefits under this program. All submitted applications shall be reviewed to ensure administrative compliance and completeness prior to an evaluation by the VMLRP application review panel. Please appreciate that applications that are not incomplete or that are incomplete include those missing supplemental information such as recommendations as of the applicable deadline will not be considered. If you do not receive an email confirmation from NIFA regarding a submitted application within 15 days of the established deadline, please contact us by email at vmlrp.applications@usda.gov to request confirmation of receipt of your application. Failure to do so may result in the application not being considered for funding by the peer review panel.
Concurrent with the peer review process, there will be a separate, complete administrative review of your loan documents prior to the announcement of awards. All applicants are required to submit supporting loan documentation, promissory notes, and account statements for each loan directly supporting professional veterinary training, DVM or equivalent degree. NIFA staff will review loan documents for compliance and completeness. You may be contacted during the loan documentation review process and be asked to provide missing, updated, or additional documentation to confirm a loan's eligibility for the VMLRP. Again, no information related to your loan documentation or the amount of your debt will be revealed to the peer review panel. The amount of your debt will not have any impact on the score your application receives from the peer review panel. Your personal identifiable information will be protected.
After applications are vetted for completeness and eligibility during the administrative review phase, applications will be evaluated by a panel of reviewers who are selected based upon training and experience in veterinary clinical medicine, rural veterinary practice, public practice, or other relevant veterinary specialty fields or sectors. In carrying out its review, the peer review panel will take into account the quality of match between your professional training and experience and the circumstances and needs of the designated shortage situation you propose to fill. The following evaluation criteria will be considered in the context of the factors and circumstances necessary. 1, expertise and experience. This criterion relates to the demonstration of the applicant's knowledge, skills, abilities, and experience of the key elements as indicated within the shortage situation as it relates to the application. 2, achievability. This criterion relates to the sustainability of the success of the shortage situation to the quality of the match between the shortage situation with the applicant's professional training and experience as indicated through their application. The applicant must address the proposed shortage situation circumstances and needs by indicating the mitigation of the shortage situation, goals, or business plans during the period of VMLRP agreement, the long-term range goals beyond the VMLRP agreement, and opportunities for establishing roots within the community. The application must indicate the most effective mitigation plan of the specific veterinary shortage situation for opportunities of success. The applicant must address how receiving the VMLRP award would provide professional success through the duration of the agreement. 3. Shortage situation. This criterion relates to the prioritization of the overall severity of the shortage situation among the applications that is determined by the SAHO on the shortage nomination form. This criterion is used in the final selection process. Please refer to the RFA on the VMLRP applicant's webpage for further details regarding the evaluation criteria within the peer review.
Applicants who are selected after the peer review panel for award consideration will be notified by email by September 30th, 2021. The award notification package will include an award notification letter, repayment schedule, contract, and a frequently asked question sheet. Upon email notification of an award offer, applicants have 90 days to secure employment or establish a practice in the designated veterinary shortage situation. Failure to secure employment or establish a practice in the designated veterinary shortage situation within the given timeframe may result in a withdrawal of the award offer.
To receive VMLRP benefits, you must enter into a legally binding commitment to provide veterinary service in your designated veterinary shortage situation for the length of your 3-year VMLRP contract. Providing this veterinary service is in the specific area is your service obligation. You may be in breach of your VMLRP contract if your site or services change without prior approval from the VMLRP office. If you have other service obligations or contractual commitments in exchange for loan repayment, reduction, or forgiveness, you must complete or defer them in order to be eligible for the VMLRP. The VMLRP requires a service obligation during the entire period of participation, and individuals may not satisfy 2 or more service obligations simultaneously. Should there be circumstances that prevent you from completing your service obligation, it will not be considered a breach of contract if the circumstances are beyond your control. For example, military deployment or loss of job. Individuals in the process of seeking other employment to continue participation in the VMLRP should contact the VMLRP office immediately for advisement. Applicants must serve the same shortage area for their term of service. The transfers from one shortage area to another are not permitted. The service obligation is not ordinarily a concern for those who are seriously pursuing a veterinary career in the specified shortage area. It is a factor to consider, however, if you are uncertain about your short-term career plans. Please review the sample VMLRP contract on the website and contact us if you have any questions about the terms and conditions of the agreement.
Lastly, we wanted to inform you all about another program that may be of interest to you or to someone you know. The VSGP, authorized by the National Veterinary Services Act, to make competitive grants to qualified entities and individual veterinarians that carry out programs in veterinary shortage situations and for the purpose of developing, implementing, and sustaining veterinary services and relieving veterinary shortage situations in the U.S. For 2021, there is approximately $2.88 million available for awards in 2 program areas: Education, Extension, and Training, or EET, and Rural Practice Enhancement, or RPE. Applications for both program areas are due Friday, April 16th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can find more information on the VSGP website.
If you have questions or concerns, please review the RFA and the VMLRP website to get the information you need. If you require further assistance, please feel free to send an email to vmlrp@usda.gov. We aim to respond to all email inquiries within 2 business days, though some inquiries may require additional time to answer. This concludes the presentation portion of the webinar. We will now take questions regarding the VMLRP. First, we will address the questions in the chat box. Please stay muted unless you would like further clarification. If you have a question, please type it in the chat box. Thank you again for joining us. We look forward to seeing your applications on April 16th, and good luck.
All right. So we have a question in the chat box that I'm going to go ahead and read. Does my loan need to be a federal loan, or can it be a private refinanced loan?
The loan must be an educational loan. So it can be a private loan as long as it's classified as an educational loan. If you have any questions or concerns about that, please contact me at vmlrp@usda.gov.
Okay. Another question for employment verification document. Will an electronic signature of the employer be accepted? I'm going to go ahead and answer that. And yes, that will be accepted. Can this webinar be reviewed again for reference? So we are recording this webinar and we will be posting it to our website within 2 weeks. If you would like copies of the slides of this webinar, you can put your email in the chat box and I'll send them to you directly. Let's see. The FSA website doesn't have an option to download a PDF copy of your loan details directly. Will a PDF print of the web page suffice?
So what needs to happen in that case is you go to the website, both the summary and the detailed portion of the website, hit right click when you're in the page, and it should give you a print option. When you go to the print option, there should be an option. One of your printers should be convert to PDF, and that's how you accomplish that task.
Okay. I have a new SPHV starting in the approved position in Hawaii. She doesn't start until after the deadline. Does she still qualify?
Have her have the applicant contact me. Yeah, that's not 100% clear, but like we talked about earlier, you cannot earn funding through the VMLRP and through another program at the same time. So just to get clarity, you're welcome to send that question to the VMLRP@usda.gov, and we'll provide further detail concerning that particular situation.
I would like to add, if the position is in the private practice for type 3s in the position match, I think it's referring to employment. So they have to have employment by the start of the contract date not the application date. So if they are meet the requirements and are eligible for that type 3 and have that, they complete that intent of employment form verifying that position and that they will be employed there. And if they are by the contract date of January 1st, 2022 for the fiscal year 2021 applications, then they would qualify.
And if you'd like to come off of mute and ask any follow-up to that, to what we provided, you can go ahead and do that. I'm going to give you some space in case you want to do that before we go to the next question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, they currently work for the same agency. They're just taking this position in a different state now. So they are currently, employees, and, they are on the payroll. They're just transferring into this position now that qualifies. So, but I'll have her, we'll have her send an email and we'll have a chat. So it sounds like she may be able to get it.
Okay. Yeah, we'll follow up. Thank you. Next question. For clarification purposes, the veterinarian needs to live in the area classified as a shortage area in order to be eligible.
So the veterinarian does not need to live in the area classified as the shortage area. It would be recommended to explain in the personal specification or the reasonings on how you're going to be meeting the logistics of the shortage nomination area in regards to the location of where you are at and maybe where your clinic is at. And I don't know if Dr. Smith has anything else to add with that.
I think, Marlene, yes, they can live outside the area. But remember that you're going to have to provide services depending on category 1 or 2, whether it's 80% or 32 hours per week or 12 hours per week or whatever. So you don't want to be living too far away from your service area.
And lastly,
the hours that you actually will provide will be the time that you serve in that area, not the commute time between your house outside that area and to that area. Okay.
And lastly, along with your, you'll be providing a map of the shortage area that you plan to fill if you are applying for a type 1 or a type 2 shortage situation area. And on that map, you'll locate where your practice is in relation to the service area you're proposing to apply to. All right. Going on to a next question. And if you have any follow-up with what we've mentioned, feel free to take yourself off of mute to clarify. Okay, next question. Only one promissory note will be required if all my loans are through one provider. Is that correct?
Not necessarily. If you just have one lending institution or provider, you only have to fill out one of our loan information forms. You need to provide a promissory note for the appropriate loans you hold. So I don't know what type of loans you hold. Normally, there's a regular promissory note, and that covers just one loan at a time. There's something called a master promissory note, and that holds one type of loan for a period of time. It could be many loans, one or more loans, up to a 5 or 6 year period. And then there's something called a consolidated promissory note. And when you get a consolidation, that makes all previous promissory notes void. And the new consolidated promissory note is the standing promissory note. So it depends on exactly the situation and what type of loans you have. But as far as this process, you only have one loan information form per lending institution, and then you need the subsequent summary and detail reports for your lending institution and for studentaid.gov, as well as the appropriate promissory notes accounting for all of your loans, whether it's just an individual promissory note a master promissory note that covers multiple loans for a period of time, or a consolidated promissory note. There's also something called a disclosure statement, or its equivalent. Each lending institution now is giving that a different name, that may be used in lieu of a promissory note. It's the legal binding document that says that you owe that lender those loans and those funds. But further, that question can be answered further if you need clarification.
All right, so that's all of the questions that we have so far. If you have more questions, feel free to type them in the chat box. And we have about 3 more minutes that we'll stay on to answer your questions.
There looks like there's a question at the end there, Danielle.
For clarification purposes, the veterinarian needs to live in the shortage situation area to be eligible. I think we answered that.
So just to make sure we're clear, a person does not have to actually live in the shortage area to be eligible. Living outside of the shortage area does not make you ineligible to apply. Per Marlene and Bob, the panel will be looking at all of that information.
Okay. For the map, is it okay if we edit the image to show where we will be practicing, where the underserved area is, etc.? Basically a map legend. Yes, you could print a map, you could draw on it, and then send that back in, show where your practice is, where you're located, and the areas that you plan to serve that are within the shortage situation area. Would anyone else like to add to that?
Yes, please ensure that it's legible as well and that the location is clear with the printing of the map and whatever type of tools you plan to use.
Please understand that sometimes if you're going to go apply for an area, some of these areas are several counties, huge areas, square miles wise. So that's why the panel members would like to have an appreciation of when you're going to serve that shortage area. Sometimes you can't physically serve the entire square miles of that area. So what do you have in vision? What are you looking at? Okay, so that would really help the panel members in making their decision.
Does that answer your question? Yes, it does. Great. Well, with that's the time that we have for this webinar today. If you have any further questions, feel free to email us, and do not hesitate to contact us. We're happy to help. And with that, I'm going to stop recording and end the meeting. Thank you all for joining us. We look forward to receiving your applications. Good luck.